fast-paced world, we often miss the little realities in our vicinity. We may be buried in our own realities, but never get a glimpse of the ones around us. To uncover this reality, we set out on a journey to a misunderstood community nearby. The truth we found shattered every expectation.
I think when people look at the homelessness problems or the drug problems, they often view it through their own personal set of goggles. It's not necessarily trying to understand the person. They look at it from their own perspective. So one of the challenges when people look at problems is them recognizing that they have their own set of goggles that they're looking at the world through, and often it's based on stereotypes. It's based on their reactions, and the challenge is to get people to understand the people who are actually the victims in this situation. So it becomes really easy to apply labels. We apply labels when we don't understand things.
First of all,
which camera?
oh, this one right here.
Here.
Can I just ask for your name first of all?
Lisa.
Where are you from originally?
Quebec.
Oh, nice.
Montreal, yeah.
Well, what brought you to Vancouver?
My parents. My dad and mother divorced because my father was gay and my mother was a drunk. So we moved to BC to live with my nana. And then I grew up and started using drugs after a divorce. My husband left me for a 21-year-old.
Would you say that your childhood influenced your life today?
Absolutely. Influences everything I do.
Have you ever attempted to reach out for help?
Of course.
In most cases, that person didn't necessarily choose that path. They've just ended up on that path. So to say that it was a choice is not completely accurate.
In recovery, I've been reborn, Christian, kinds of things. There's a lot of, on paper, there's a lot of things that help you, but when you get there, there's a long lineup, and the follow through is usually bullshit. It's a systematic failure. The human race is actually meant to deteriorate, meant to dissolve, and procrastination is putting off one thing, like say mowing your grass, then now you're not cleaning your windows, now you're not doing your dishes. So unfortunately, I'm part of that system. So the system putting me off, or they say, come back next week and we might have a bed. That turns into a month, into a year, and during that time, sleeping on the streets for a year, my body starts to deteriorate, my thoughts, mental, self-induced psychosis. Then I do something like go to recovery, get to the program, have an epiphany, and then I leave with all my new foundation and all my new friends. But then when I need help, no one answers the phone.
I think it's important to note that addiction is never intended. In most cases, what happens is patients will start with a treatment plan, will do their best to follow it, and along the way, when roadblocks occur, when setbacks occur, when pain is not adequately controlled, there's opportunities where patients may tend to overuse their medications, not stick to the treatment plan. There might be some overprescribing as well, as physicians and other prescribers attempt to help the patient in trying to manage their pain a bit better.
Their main focus is us, how to get rid of us.
So they're looking at you guys.
This whole thing that they did was to give us more money and we can do drugs wherever we like was a setup. It's called a separation technique. Basically, there's a reason why we were given all that extra money on our disability checks. The reason why we were given the right to use drugs anywhere we like. We're a burden.
getting stabbed tastes like metal.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for sharing your story.
Junkies feel, and they tarnish the image of all that's nice wherever they go. They just they're a blight on the beauty that is Vancouver. Every city's on a skid row, okay? And it doesn't matter what city you go. No city that's got no poor or disenfranchised demographic. And then going over there, every city's problem, but they used to keep it under control with police brutality and death sentences on drugs. Now all that's been abolished, right? Now the cops can't do anything about it. They can't get charged with anything, and so they can do whatever they want. That's exactly the thing to do. I mean, bring things of law a little bit more draconian, and you're gonna get results.
I think anytime you deal with a problem where you say that it's a choice, you are putting the blame on the person who's dealing with the issue, and whether or not that's true really isn't the point. When you do that, you put that person in a very defensive position, and when people are defensive, it's really difficult to move forward or even gain any sort of trust with them.
Just mind introducing yourselves again?
Yeah, I'm Frenchy.
I'm Sonia.
Where are you guys originally from?
I was born in Belgium and I grew up in Montreal.
Oh, that's cool. What about you?
I'm born in Algeria, and I grew up in Montreal too.
Did you guys come here together?
Yeah,
What brought you guys to Vancouver?
freedom.
All right.
It was okay. I got good parents. And then as a teenager, my mom got sick and she kicked me out. And then you get to know the new experience, new life. I think it made me who I am today, and I don't regret it.
Yeah, I think it's more like I've always been the black sheep in my family.
Do you think that your childhood at all played an influence in your life, or the way you guys are parented played an influence?
Yes,
Oh yeah, it did.
me definitely.
They kicked me out at 12, so I kind of like very young to do stuff on my own. Of course, it would have been different if it didn't happen, but maybe I would end up worse. Maybe I would end up better. I don't know. But not everybody has a strong mind, and I would say, like, let's say for example, I would do drugs to keep me up because it's too cold to sleep. But some people don't have a mind as strong, so they probably get that lead to an addiction. So yeah, I can see what's depending on everybody, right? It's all different. You have different.
Of course, if you grew up in a like really poor family and all your family is doing drugs all the time, of course it's gonna be harder to go on the straight path, let's say.
Just from being here, what do you think public perception is about people who live on the streets?
Everybody's different. Some people look at you like you're a piece of shit on the sidewalk. Some people feel bad they help.
Yeah, it's really like makes sense. Exactly. Some people will look at you like you're nothing, like they're so much better than you because they have a house and they have a job.
Well, there's a increase in rent too. Some people have good jobs and they can't pay their rent, right?
It's really expensive.
There's a few different types of homeless people. There's mental health problems. There's people that have drugs problems.
In terms of the people who you have seen or people you know who have drug problems, what do you think is a big factor that pushes them to having those problems but not being able to like get out of those problems?
But I know people like, let's say with the opioid stuff, there's people that went from like an accident at work, from a prescription to being an addict, and there's people that just wanted to party and ended up with an addiction. There's people that cannot with themselves, they cannot face reality, so they need to be high all the time.
And I think here too, it's so easy access. Drugs are like honestly, for all my life, it's the first time in my life in Vancouver that I have to say no to free drugs. Like
It's easy. Yeah.
it's it's not for the weak-minded people, because someone that hasn't done any drugs in all his life and come here and is, let's say, weak-minded, everyone like, oh, you want this, you want that, you want to try that, you want. It's like if you're just too weak mentally, you're just gonna be like yes, 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 and then you end up being a chunk.
Would you say that policymakers and law enforcement have to bail those people?
I was around here selling cigarettes, like Indian cigarettes and weed, right? And I oh, there you go. And I had some crystal meth too. And the cops came, they searched me, they took the weed, they took the cigarettes, and they give me the crystal meth back. I don't think that makes sense, but
Was this before legalization or after?
Maximum 2-3 months ago.
That's wow.
And I kind of take it as like, don't smoke weed and cigarettes, but get high on that shit type of deal.
I think they're starting to, like the government and all of that, they're starting to get a little bit more on that, because there's more and more like places like the addiction sites, or just they give away free clean pipes or whatever they need to get high. And it's not some people say it's just, oh, you're encouraging like drug use, but it's not true, because they're gonna do it anyway. So better give me a free clean pipe than I'll go get a dirty one and maybe like overdose on something, you know.
Most people are gonna do them if they're legal or not. They're gonna do them.
It's like with drug dealers. If you bust one and you arrest him, well, there's gonna be another one the next day. There's always gonna be drugs. There's always gonna be people doing it.
In terms of the group of people in the public that you would say that have a negative perception, who live on the streets or use or are battling addiction, what do you think are like steps that they take to combat or mitigate those negative perceptions?
But they gotta understand that a bad luck could happen to them and they could end up there. I think with the COVID, a lot of people changed because a lot of people got in finance bad. So a lot of people changed since then. But yeah, it's the way you get raised too. If a kid, you have a kid, and since he's a kid, you tell him I'm bad, he's gonna grow up thinking I'm bad, even if he don't know.
That's true. If you tell a kid every time like a mom and a kid pass by, and every time they pass in front of us, they're like, oh, these are bad people.
Yeah.
They're homeless. They're useless. And like when he's gonna grow up, even if his mom is not gonna be there anymore, he's gonna have this mentality of thinking, oh, homeless people are bad. But if the mother instead is like, oh, there's some people that are not as fortunate as us, and they're on the street, but it's okay, they're still humans. Well, they're gonna grow up and be like, oh, it's okay to be homeless, or it's information. I think that's the thing that will change people.
The world needs black sheep.
Yeah.
Like some people, they can't. That's why I had a guy in the past judging me because I was up all night. But how the fuck did he know that I was up all night? Probably because he was up too, noticing that I'm up, right? So.
Final question for each of you today is what are 3 messages that you have for society or the public in general?
Get to know someone before you judge.
Don't judge a book by its cover.
There's people, they might think they're bad, but maybe sometimes take 2 minutes to talk to people. It's like, there's bad people everywhere. There's bad lawyers, there's bad homeless, there's bad police, there's good and everything too.
I think it's information. I think what you're doing is like helping and encouraging for the people to just learn that, hey, we're not all just junkies. It's like, yeah, I do drugs. Yes, I do. So what? I'm still able to talk with you. I'm still respectful. I'm still a human being. Tabarnak. It's just what I want to say is that don't judge people just like that. You don't know the reason. You don't know their stories. You don't know them. Just don't judge.
Any stereotype can be problematic because we make a judgment based on the stereotype. We don't spend time to really figure out, like, why did that person end up in this situation? And then we deal with generalizations for a complex problem. And usually those generalizations, it's a character defect in the person, or it's something bad that happened, and we don't really spend the time to actually figure out the individual.
Thank you.
I hope you guys have a great day.
Oh, yeah. We did have a good time. Well, I mean, I did have a good time.
I really enjoyed talking to you guys.
Thank you.
Wish you all the best. And
Thank you very much.
So, what are some ways we can really fight negative stigmatization?
So, when it comes to any sort of stigma, we have to be open. We have to be willing to have conversations. We have to be willing to have some honest conflict and have an exchange of ideas, and not be fixated on trying to solve it in 30 minutes. Complex problems take time, and when you deal with a diverse population, what works for one person may not work for another. So there has to be a certain level of time, and there has to be a certain amount of patience involved to reduce stigma.
Make sure that you guys get this printed and put out there.
Yes.
It's not a video.
Seven, first track.